Namaste, everyone. I'm Ashley Turner, yoga meditation teacher and licensed psychotherapist. I'm here talking about how to set yourself up for success in the holidays and my 5 core tips to successfully deal with your family during the holidays. So as we know, one of the biggest challenges in the holiday season is reverting back to old patterns. As Ram Dass says, if you want to know how awakened you are, go back and spend time with your family. And I'm sure we can almost all relate to this. So here are my 5 biggest tips for successfully setting yourself up and your family up during the holidays. So the first is to identify and know how you want to feel in relationships or with your family. So for example, I just had my family here for Thanksgiving, and I realized as I was thinking about prepping for them coming, the number one thing I wanted to feel was peace and a sense of ease and spaciousness. It can get really crowded when you're in tight spaces with people, when maybe the schedule gets packed or there's kids running around. It can just get really chaotic. And so for me, I knew that my highest values were peace, spaciousness, for everyone to feel good, and just ease throughout. So what that does is it sets you up with your value system. And I also had a lot of other intentions, like I would have loved to have everyone go to a yoga class together, or I would have loved to do this or that. But the truth is, once you get everyone's agendas together, it's too much. The schedule is already packed. People are stressed. I can feel myself getting stressed right now just talking about it. So I immediately, based on that value system of peace, ease, and spaciousness, I just let go of my other expectations. I let go of the other things that I had been planning or thinking maybe we could fit in. And it sets you up and streamlines your goals and your values. So for you to identify what is most important. And if peace is most important, if ease is most important, that might mean that you cut out extra spending or extra scheduling, or trying to have like the Martha Stewart holiday of the perfect menu and everybody's scrambling around in the kitchen and getting stressed. And so for me, that looks like, let's just create the easy recipes that we know we've done over and over, and we don't have to stress about it. And so identify how you want to feel, and then you practice bringing that in, and you practice presencing those feelings. So do what you need to do. In my example of peace, ease, and spaciousness, I had to create peace within myself, ease within myself, and spaciousness in the schedule, spaciousness in the meal planning and meal prepping, so that we could have more of that. So I took it upon myself to infuse that into our week together. So that's going to help you know your values, and then you be responsible for presencing that. Number 2, this is so important, identify the patterns and the triggers. So you really want to know your triggers. This is part of reparenting ourselves. This is part of emotional intelligence. Know what your triggers are. You already know. You already know what your sister, brother, parents do that piss you off and trigger you. So set yourself up for success by eliminating those triggers in any way that you can. So for example, when I reverse engineer it, I see that the way that I am in the world is very triggering for my sisters and my mother to certain degrees. The way that I am, less of a planner and more spontaneous and more go with the flow, it's much more helpful for them to have things laid out and a menu planned and a schedule planned for the 5-7 days that they're here, so everybody's kind of on the same page. So I know that I have to eliminate those triggers as much as possible and stretch myself to show up in ways that are going to be helpful for them. It's not abandoning myself. It's not acquiescing. It's really setting all of us up for success. I also know there's certain triggers with this family member or that family member. So I reverse engineer it before we even get started to eliminate those to any degree that I can. And then when you know that something says or does is most likely going to trigger you, you can do what one of my teachers, Mona Miller, calls pre-rinsing. And go in and journal before you even get there, before you get on the plane or in the car. Journal out, stream of consciousness. Maybe it's, I'm so frustrated about this. I'm so angry about that. This really upsets me when you do this. So you're pre-rinsing it and getting it, turning on the faucet and getting it out of your system before you even show up. So that's really helpful. But to the degree that you can, minimize or eliminate the triggers. Really, you take responsibility for cleaning up your side of the street and showing up in the most empowered way according to those values in number 1. Set and enforce, number 3. Set and enforce firm but flexible boundaries. So firm but flexible boundaries. One of the things that tends to happen with our families is that when we get into a family dynamic, we can easily regress. And there's a concept in psychology called a constellation, and you can think of it like each family member is like a different star or a different planet, and each family system has a constellation that they tend to lock into a certain pattern. This person's playing this role, this person's playing the trickster, this person's playing the one in control, this person's, the authoritarian, what this person's, whatever it is. And everyone adapts according to that constellation. And so it's very easy when those members get back together to lock it, locked and loaded in that constellation. So you want to unpack that a little bit. Create some spaciousness for yourself. Know what your boundaries are. Know what is a firm but flexible boundary. For myself, when I used to go home and visit, I would let and this is going right into number 4, which is schedule self-care and alone time. I would let my self-care go. I wouldn't do my yoga practice or work out. I would start eating all this food with white sugar, white flour, and consequently get really irritable and be pissed off and not feel good, or I'd be drinking too much alcohol. So I had to really set my boundaries for myself, and I want to emphasize that setting firm and flexible boundaries is not just with other people, it's also setting firm and flexible boundaries with yourself. So for me, that looks like knowing clearly how much money I want to spend, what kinds of foods I want to eat, how I'm going to schedule in my self-care time and my alone time, so that all of that doesn't go out the window and I end up abandoning myself and then feeling irritable and pissed off and projecting it onto my family members. So that's just my pattern, but I have a feeling some of you might be along with me on there. Or set firm and flexible boundaries with your family members. So also for me, that looks like when we're together, I still have a firm boundary of needing alone time. And even if someone wants to come with me on, this or that, oftentimes I'll say, you know what, I'm just going to go to this class by myself, or I'm just going to go on a walk by myself, I just need to take a little alone time. So that goes into number 4, which is setting alone time and self-care practices. So you know what your self-care practices are. If you're traveling, pack your supplements, pack some extra good food that you want. The first thing that I do when I get to a family member's house is go to, Whole Foods or the healthy food store and get, the staples that I know that I need. Now, going back to knowing what you want in relationships or with family, when my value is peace, my value is ease, I have let go of trying to influence my family's menu or nutrition, right? And they're not bad, at all, but I know that I don't feel good when I eat white flour, white sugar, alcohol, too much alcohol. So I just, instead of trying to get them to not make it or to make a gluten-free version or to make a, sugar-free version, I will just come and offer the food that I want to eat. So I have these double chocolate chip vegan gluten-free cookies that I make. So I bring those as a dessert and I make them with my niece and nephew. Or I bring a big thing of basically just steamed vegetables, but super clean. And I just offer that. And it's not trying to influence the overall menu or anyone else's cooking or eating, but it's just, then I know that I have food that I want to eat and I can eat it, anyone else can eat it or not, and it doesn't matter. And that just creates a lot more ease when I don't even mention, gluten-free or dairy-free or whatever. It's not like I have a hardcore diet, but, it's a food I prefer. So those are ways that I set myself up for success. I honor their boundaries. I also know my value. I would rather be peaceful and not even have a conversation about needing something to be gluten-free, right? It's just like, I'm going to take responsibility and I'm going to provide that for myself, and anyone else can join in. Finally, number 5, accept, forgive, and love people for who they are. We can't emphasize enough letting go of expectations, letting go of wanting people to change. We know this. I saw a great quote on Instagram the other day. You can never expect anyone to change. We know that. The only thing you can change is the way that you respond to that. So this is huge. This is such a big one. Try to train yourself to really see the light in everyone, to really recognize it. Now, I will say, if you're dealing with toxic people, if you're dealing with people that there's unhealthy patterns, please, know when to hit the eject button, have a backup plan, exit plan. If you need to get out of the dinner early or you need to leave, definitely set yourself up with options for that. I am not talking about condoning unhealthy or toxic behavior, but it's really important to give people a lot of spaciousness and freedom to be who they are, how they are, where they are. It's not our job to change anyone or even influence anyone. Really, the best that we can do is hold unconditional positive regard. And that, again, that doesn't mean condoning unhealthy behavior, but really practice forgiveness. And I'll do another Facebook Live on this next week. Loving and accepting people for who they are. Letting people be who they are, where they are, how they are, and then you choosing and knowing your firm but flexible boundaries, how much you want to engage or how you want to engage with them. But hold that center, hold that power, set up that alone time, that self-care time, know your high values. Everything else falls into line underneath that. Identify the patterns and triggers, pre-rinse to the degree that you can, and be compassionate. Be compassionate with yourself, with your family, and really enjoy this holiday season. So I really offer you the presence of conscious presence with each other over presence, material goods. So let's just really focus on the quality of our presence. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave a comment below. Let me know which one of these most resonates with you, knowing how you want to feel with your family, identifying the triggers, setting in firm, flexible boundaries, scheduling self-care and alone time, or accepting, forgiving, and loving people for who they are. Which one of those 5 lands for you? Post it below in the comments. Please share this. If you like this, like it, share it, and please DM me, hit me up, take a screenshot, put it on Instagram so I know who you are and I can connect with you over there as well. Sending you so much love. Namaste.